Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me in this very unique and unscheduled live stream. I was supposed to be at 3 this afternoon, but my world's been flipped on my ear for the last couple of weeks, and things are going to be in a bit of a transitional phase for maybe a little while. I don't really know how things are going to be settling down and shaking out, but things are settling down. So, so the patrons know I've got a new roommate, and last night was the first night, and uh, they're in fact I've got people here that's cleaning and straightening up and helping, trying to get things organized. Uh, Still got a lot of stuff that got to get done, but it's just upended my world for a brief period of time. And those delicate hours during the middle of the day, I just needed to be doing other things. So here we are, and here you are, and thank you for being here, each and every one of you. This is going to be a productive stream. I'm not going to be going over a specific project. I have been using some new to me tools in Lightburn. I've been using them, but I haven't been using them optimally or the most efficient way until now. I've really started to get a handle on some of these, and I'm going to be sharing those with you and show you what I did with the Space Force, the Space Force logo. And the only reason I'm showing you that one is because I spent hours and hours trying to figure out the best way to bring the detail out from this logo, because it's a very unique logo. And, we've got a laser and you've got a piece of wood. And what can you do with a laser and a piece of wood? You can burn it. If you've been doing it long enough, then you've started to play with the test cuts and the power settings, and you get you a little color swatch like this to where you can see different gradients and what your different speeds and powers will produce. But ultimately, it's just a burnt black rectangle or brown rectangle. And there's so much detail in that logo, in that insignia for the Space Force, that just didn't do it justice. And I kept on. I struggled. I'll show you. I played with. I threw away a lot of them. And when you're doing this, guys, when you're trying to figure it out, don't do it at full scale. That's going to be a waste of time, waste of material. Get you some scrap pieces of wood and start playing with miniature pieces. And I played with, after I realized that I did not want to do just a simple engraving, I needed to play with my LPI, my feel method, and multiple different layers. There's so much going on in this insignia now, but the difference between putting a piece of wood on your laser and have your Rolly just crank out, an image real fast. If you're in the Rolly Automation Facebook group, you've probably seen the video that I put up earlier this week, and it shows just that. It shows, because an argument you'll hear from a lot of people, and I was one of them. I was one of the ones when I first started using my laser saying, I need more power. I need a bigger laser. I need more power. I need to go faster. This is taking too long. It's taking way too long. Well, 2.5 years after getting into this and realizing, you can go faster and you can get quantity. You can get more projects done using a faster laser, but you're not going to get the quality. I don't care what. Now, with a diode, I have yet to play with the fiber. The fibers are really cool. And I have yet to see anything on the Galvomatic yet. I know there's some stuff out there, but I haven't seen anything yet. I have seen the first video that Leo dropped out where he was teasing us with it, and its speed is pretty impressive. But with a regular diode, you're not going to get extreme detail and speed. You can have one or the other. And if you're one of the folks who you've got your first laser, be it the MK1 or the MK2, or maybe you've got the XW, or maybe, and you've only got, and if you only have one that has the 10 watt module, you don't have the 1020 or the 1030. Well, your 10 watt is one that's going to give you the absolute most detail. Is it going to take a while? But if you want to produce extremely high quality pieces, it's going to take a while. I can bet you that the statue of David wasn't knocked out before lunch. Okay. When you create a masterpiece, it's going to take a while, and it's going to take lots of small tools and time to chisel out everything, because you're not going to get the fine detail with a mallet and a 4-inch chisel. All right. All right. Same thing here with your diode laser. That 10 watt is going to give you the detail. And like I said, multiple tests and sizes. And finally, when I finally got the settings that I thought I liked, I then stepped it up to do it full size to make sure that the settings, the LPIs and the power, because I did play with the power settings in as well. So I had a little variation going on, but not much. But this, if you didn't see the video that I uploaded in the Rolly Automation Facebook group, this image is the one that's done with the 30 watt diode, just cranking it out full speed, pop it out as fast. This was the, and somebody in the stream, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it 30,000? Is that the fastest? I can't remember, because I don't operate at that speed. But this was the highest speed that the Rolly Automation can move at 100% power with a 30 watt diode. So the Rolly XW could not have done this one any faster and any darker with any more detail. This was as fast as you could go. And it's not bad. It's not, I mean, it's a good image. The detail is good, and that's the 30 watt. So it's not that you get bad results, but I want you to see that and look. That's supposed to be a satellite. That's what that representation, that's a satellite that's in orbit around the globe. For the non-flat earthers out there, the globe. And it crosses the delta. Well, you don't see it in that image because it's all one speed, one power. And the delta is not a flat triangular piece, or it's not a flat arrowhead. It has dimension. It has detail to it. But if you're going for speed, power, crank it out, this is what you get. In contrast to, and this took a little time, but once I got it dialed in and I figured it all out, now I don't have to do all that research for this image again. This one, I've got it backward. This is the 10 watt with how many layers? I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think there's 7 layers, and each of those have sub layers. So there's a minimum of 14 layers, not cut layers, but engraved layers on this image. 14 layers. And the difference there. You see, and I'm trying not to hit my microphone, but you see what I tried to create is a brushed stainless steel effect, and each quadrant of the delta is unique and identifiable, with the grains of potentially the stainless steel running in a different direction. You see the satellite obvious above and with its orbit on top of the delta, and the detail it's night and day between that, and I can't get them both in there good and close, and that. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with this if you want to knock out something fast and cheap. This was done, and this is probably about 5 inches. And I think it was, I don't know, 10 minutes, if that. May not have been, may not even been that long. This I think was over an hour. And you're like, oh Lord, if you're going to take an hour to do that, well, how can you possibly sell anything or make any money with it? Well, if you've got these two sitting side by side, which one's going to get you more money? You're going to get more money out of this. People are going to appreciate the quality of that much better than that. And if you're doing it for yourself, don't you want the best thing you can do? So it took me 2.5 years to grasp it, but low and slow. People all the time ask me, how did you get that engraving so dark? And it's almost counterintuitive that I did not use a lot of power to burn into it. I slowed the laser down, and most of my engravings, you'll see I'm only at around 700 millimeters a minute and only about 9 or 10% power or less on a 10-watt diode. And it gives me black engravings. And when I want to get a really deep pocket, I will use a high power and a little bit higher speed, probably a lot higher speed, and blast a pocket out. Then go back with a sub layer, same layer, sub layer though, reduce it, reduce the speed, reduce the power down to that 720 and 10% power. Then follow it up with a line after fill afterwards. Now it is an extremely deep pocket and it's extremely black. It's a really nice piece. So what do you want to make? Or wow. So I was challenged, not, just like, well, I don't know if I'd agree with you about lower power. You sacrifice speed, but you gain quality. And and initially when I started with lasers, I thought that I needed speed so I could generate quantity to sell lots more product. But if I can create a product that's 10 times as nice as those individual 10 pieces over there that I can sell for, even if maybe I can't sell that one piece for the same money I can all those 10, but I've got to do one project. And even if it only sells for 75% of the value of those 10, there I had to make 10 pieces. You did them fast, but they're make one really premium piece, put a premium price on it. And I think you'll be happier. Your customers will be happier. Now, with all of that said, I want to show you this image in Lightburn and how those settings, how I arrived at those settings, and give you the information that you need so that you can take any design that you're working with, and if you're wanting to break them up in different layers and sub layers, what to look for and how to do it. All right. And James has got a question. Let me go back up here before I get to him, because that was a lot of talking. And I do, again, I thank everybody for being here tonight. All right. If I didn't go all the way back, I just went back up in the comments a little ways. If I do not answer your question, and feel free to repost it. Remember, questions and comments preceded with question marks or exclamation points so I can see them without having to read every line for line. Like this. Brad says, a lot of people doing photorealistic images on tile and such are using 1.5 and 3 watts still. Results speak for themselves. Yeah, and Brad says it was 36,000 on the x-axis. Yeah. So that first image was 36,000 and 100% power, and it did a decent image, but not that detail. And if he mentioned the 1.5 and the 3 watt lasers. The smaller the output of the laser, the finer, the smaller the focal point of that laser, the diode where it contacts the material. So you're able to get finer detail. It's like if I gave you an adult coloring book and not an adult coloring book, but it was full of really nice images with lots of detail, and I gave you a set of color mechanical pencils that had a 0.08 lead. You could go in and you can get that just fine, and you could make some really nice pieces. But then I gave your neighbor the exact same coloring book, but I gave him a set of the Sharpie broad tip markers, and I asked him to create the same thing that you just did with your little mechanical pencils. He can't do it because he's working with something 10 times wider than what you've got. So, anyway, so thank you for that follow up on that, Brad. Wayne says people will buy quality. Recognize what your product is worth. Recognize your time has value. Be able to justify your price. And because if somebody said, like, because there are a lot of uneducated people who are going to be like, really? They want that for a piece of wood? Well, this piece of wood cost $24. Okay. That's a $24 piece of wood. And you want something engraved on it that says, Happy Balloon Day, and you want it for $3 on, with tax, you're $30. Sometimes you're just uneducated. Sometimes it's not worth your time to try and educate. But if they seem like they're genuinely interested in how you can come to that value for your product, share it with them, justify it, and let them know that, hey, I'm not just pulling this out of thin air. I mean, there's a reason but for the most part, all right, totally different product. And I think I've used this analogy once before, analogy or simile, I don't know. And I am not attacking or slamming anybody's vehicle. But if you have and they're coming back, I've seen they're planning on going back in production again. If you have or have had a Yugo and you park it beside a Lexus, without even getting in the vehicle, you can tell there's a night and day difference between the quality of the two vehicles. They're both going to get you where you want to go. And you don't question that one's worth a whole lot more than the other. Well, people can see that value in your product if you take the time and produce a high-end piece. Let's see. And I'm going to get there. And I've got a lot of stuff to share with you guys tonight. James says, can you get the same results with a 40 watt? A 40 watt what? What kind of 40 watt? A 40 watt diode? I doubt it. A 40 watt fiber? That's what I was talking about earlier. I don't know. And Jack might see Jack in the shop is here. Jack, he plays with the fibers. But if the 40 watt fiber has a smaller focal point, a smaller dot size, as small as maybe a 10 watt, a 0.08 or less, then yeah, you can get that kind of detail, but not if it's larger than a 0.08, average 0.08 dot size. God bless you, Lyle. Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's see here. What laser and wattage did you use for the so-so one? Same laser. I used that came off both those engravings came off of the Rolly XW. I've got a video in the Rolly Automation Facebook group. Also, it's in my group, Hobo with Wood Facebook group. I've got the video showing both pieces going on there. That laser, and it's sped up, so you're not watching it for an hour. It's 10 or 30 times speed, knocking them out. But the first piece that was done with the OK results, that's the Rolly XW 30 watt. And it was 36,000 millimeters a minute, if that's max speed, and then 100% power with a 30 watt. And that's actually good detail. It just doesn't have the detail of the image. the quality, and this is no line after fill. This was just simply knocking out this engraving as fast as you could possibly produce it with the Rolly XW. And then I wanted to see, okay, the counter to that. This was as fast as I could go. Now, how nice can I make it? And if you tell me that that's not night and day difference between those two, then there's something wrong with your glasses, your screen, your monitor, or something. I keep hitting the microphone because there is the quality between those two is extremely noticeable. And all right, so now Jack says I don't use a fiber on wood. Yeah, I don't use a fiber on wood, and that's for the potential for fire. Is that right, Jack? But the dot size on the fiber depends on the lens you have on it. Okay. So, and that's the other thing. See, I've never messed with the fiber. I've got it CO2 that I don't mess with either. I've got one, but you can change the lengths of your tube, change the lenses, and that can change your focal point. Is what I understand. Fiber is no good on wood, no good for wood. So I don't know of anything you're going to engrave on wood with a 40 watt power anything and give you the detail of those 10 watt outputs. And I'm using the Rolly XW, but most of your 10 watt diodes advertise around a 0.08 average dot size. Your X and Y will have a different size dot, but with an average of a 0.08 on just about all of your 10 watts. Okay. All right. I'm going to mark this spot, and we're going to jump over here and look at this actual file. All right. And I had all my cameras all messed up, so I want to make sure I'm showing you the right screen. So, yep, that's not it. I was getting ready to show you the back of the walls. I don't want that. I want that, and switch. And switch. There we go. All right, so this is the file for the Space Force Memorial. And it has a couple of different optional ways you can lay this out. There's a couple of different flags for those who want a more regulation type union size. This one is just a more of a shrunken down with about the right ratio on the length of the bars versus the stars. So there's a variation there. And then I've got one over here to where you can do a small logo or insignia and put it in a corner along with a dog tag and then have the flag. And of course, you wouldn't be able to use this with these. You'd want to, if you had something, your own custom artwork, you could add it to it. Piece of cake. And I'm going to change, and I've been asked to do the National Guard, and that's my next one I'm going to knock out. And what I'm going to do is this actual, this design, this concept. Let me show it to you. I'm going to, I'll just show you this real fast. This started with Russ. Thanks, Russ. Russ had a very special request, very specific request, where he wanted it with the Marines and Iwo Jima, the Purple Mountain Majesty, and the flags, or the flag. And so that was the first one. Well, that was the springboard that led to the actual Marines. Then there was the Army. And then you had the Air Force and the Navy. And I was like, well, I'm going to do all the enlisted services. Then the Space Force. This is the piece that we're getting ready to look at right now. So the Space Force, and I finished this one and got it uploaded just before going live. This is the Coast Guard, and I did a Coast Guard cutter with a helo taken off in the back. Now there is the optional insignia that goes up in the corner for the Coast Guard and optional dog tags. All that's there, but you see all these variations. And some of them even have multiple variations within the variations. And I said, you know what? It's getting to be too much. So I want to do one big package, one design that's going to be like this, and it will have two placement options for the medallion, for the insignia. One like this, where it's great big and in the center, and then the other, where is it, instead of it being centered, it'll be centered over here in the stars and bars with the union completely exposed. And then within that file, every single one of the armed forces will be in that file. Then all you got to do is just take, and if you're going to make these for sale, you could have everything else already pre-done, and then you just had to engrave your insignia and you're done. But then so you can just interchange the insignias one after the other, and having the optional layout where it's centered or centered over the bars. And then if it's centered over the bars, you could do the dog tags down here, and that would look good. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to put every one of those services in one file with everything already sized. All you got to do is just drop it and go. But now let's look at this and how this is done, and how you, if you've already if you already purchased any of these files and you want to change the location. I've showed you this once before, but there's a lot of people here tonight that may not have seen it. It is so simple to move the position of this piece and not have to redesign anything. So let's look at this logo. How did I get all of that detail? How did I get those lines, the stainless brush look? And how do you reposition it? So back into Lightburn. So this is the layer with the insignia on it. And right now I have it in wireframe mode, so you don't see everything and feel. I'm going to copy this, Control D, duplicate it, group it. They said grouped already, put it in the center of the page. And then I'm going to use the new shortcut that I was told about. And I see some questions here. I'll look at it. See, oh, phooey. I just drew a blank on my own shortcut. Wireframe, Alt-Shift-W, Alt-Shift-W. Turn that back on to fill mode. Let's look at these questions real quick before we get down. It's okay, Gigi. I got people in here and Gigi's barking. All right. Mark my spot. Okay. Question, can you not get it with a 30 watt? No. Not as fine of a detail and not as dark. Here is 10 watt, 10 watt, 30 watt, and 30 watt. All right. So here are my color palettes, my tests to try and find. I'm looking, when I did these, Lyle, I was looking for the darkest black engraving I could get. And this is on Baltic birch, but I find that it kind of, it translates to other products with similar results. But initially, let's see here, 30 watt Rolly, 30 watt Rolly power. Okay. So I did it at, my first test cut was at, and getting sidetracked, but I want to answer this, and we're going to get there. And I've got some cool things I'm going to show you tonight too. I'm going to show you, for those of you who have got this much creative ability to create images, and you don't want to trace things, you don't want to be worrying about copy. I want to show you how you can create a pretty extensive art library using nothing but fonts. Yeah. So we're going to get there, and looking at these tools. But answering Lyle's question, I turned on the Rolly. I had it 30 watt modules turned on, and instead of going to full speed, I only went to half speed at 18,000 millimeters a minute. And I've got a cut path here, or test pattern, that goes from 1,000 to 18,000, and from 10 to 100%. And you can see at those speeds, that's way too much power for the 10 watt. You can see how black it is, but it's just burnt. It's charred to pieces. That's not supposed to be cuts. Those are supposed to be engraving. It just cut it all away. So then I realized, okay, well, that's just way too much power. These are not nearly dark enough and what's happening, it just burns it off and blows it away. So I'm like, okay, so now I knew I needed to reduce my speed or reduce my power, because that's what I looked at is all from here all the way over is just too much power. So 30 watts or 30% power with a 30 watt, it didn't burn it all the way through, but it's charred. So the next one I did, I went see 30 30 30 30, is that 8? And I wasn't prepared to do this tonight, but or to talk about this, but you asked the question and I want to answer it. Okay. And the speed was really, 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 really low. That was at 1,000 millimeters a minute. And you it got up to about right in there. You still had some pretty dark charring going on. So there was no point in having the 10% power with the 30 watt. So I upped the speed to 12,000 instead of 1,000. I jumped all the way to 12,000 and a minimum of 10 or 20 rather instead of 10. But you see, there's no black in here. Absolutely no black whatsoever. It's just brown and grays looking. And so the 10 watt, 10 watt, 10 watt, 10 watt, 10 watt, 10 watt, 10 watt Rolly XW. Yep, here we go. With the 10 watt, and right there's that magic spot. 10% power, 500 millimeters a minute. And at 720 at 10, it was getting a little bit of charring. So a lot of times I'm usually around 720 and only about 8.5 to 9% power on a 10 watt. And it is jet black. And different environments, different materials, different humidity levels, all those things are going to affect how your outcome is. That's why you got to test it for yourself, which is part of what we're going to talk about here. But no matter what material I work on, no matter what the humidity level is in the house, if it's raining outside or if it's 90 degrees and sweltering, I get similar results as far as low power, low speeds to get that dark engraving without treating the wood. People say, oh, use borax, I'll use this, I'll use that. Well, then you got to spend the time making your mixture, prepping it up, letting it dry, then clean it up. This is just put on a laser and go. Key says that's why I like the Rolly 10 and 30 to cut. Yep. And the dot size is not round but rectangular. That's right. That's why you have and it's not even rectangular either, Carl, but it is a bigger on the Y than it is the X. But because the diode is actually rectangular, not rectangular, I think it's square. I think. It might be a single diode laser may in fact be rectangular. You may be correct in that statement, Carl. A single 2.5 diode output may in fact be rectangular, but when they collimate all the lasers, all those diodes together to create one focal point from 6 different lasers, well, with the way they've got them all stacked up, they're not a perfect rectangle any longer. Now they're kind of I made up the ovaloid, or it's obtuse. I'm sure there's a word for it, but it's not rectangular and it's not round. I don't know what that was. This looks like a much refined technique you used on the I'd Rather Be Camping project. Well done. Well, thank you. Are the engravings done with the 10 watt? Yes, these were the 10 watt. And as you design on scrap at a smaller size, do you need to adjust it? That's what we're going to talk about, Bordello. We're going to look at just that. We're getting there. Hey, Russ, there's the one that caused all this work for me. It's all down there. It was a lot of fun meeting and working with the Patreons. All right. I planned on trying to do that this week, but I just didn't have time. I know it's done for the Rolly, but can it be converted easy for a D1? I guess that's easy. I know it's done for my files are done for the Rolly, but can it be done convert? Not. You've got a D1, so you got an X full. So since you've got the X Full, I don't know if you're only using the XCS creative space and you're not using Lightburn. If you're using Lightburn, then there's nothing you have to worry about. A 10 watt, your laser is going to vary. The power output, your geographic location will affect your outcome. But the settings that I use for my 10 watt on my Rolly are going to be similar to your X Full 10 watt. So yeah, it shouldn't be a problem. Now, if you're talking about converting it from a Lightburn to XCS, where you got to, mine are done with save them as SVGs as well, and you can import the SVGs. And we're going to talk about that too, because I learned this week that there's an issue with the way that my files are set up. When you bring in as an SVG, some of the stuff gets changed, and we're going to talk about that too. Let's see. Get. I'm trying to get through this and to get back to the. Okay, good. All right. What's with the new glasses? I fell asleep in the other ones and broke one of the arms off. Ellipsoid. Okay, sounds good to me. Ellipsoid. I have the D1 Pro 20 watt, and most of Steve files work just fine, except for the fonts once in a while. Yeah. All right. Mark this spot, and let's get back over this. Let's get back to this file. All right. Back. All right. So now that I put this in fill mode, you can see all these different colors and all these different layers. And as I said, there's the black engrave layer. Then I've got the blue, the gold, the 15, that was that fuchsia, gray, pink, and green. All of these are engraved layers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 layers. And if you see them, it's multi-mode in all of them. So if I double click here and open that up, you can see, yeah, that's two. That's the fill and sub layer, fill sub, fill sub, fill sub, fill sub. Yeah, so there's 14 different layers to create that outcome. 14. All right. Now, why 14? Well, let's put it, well, first, you know what? Let's do a preview and show you this on screen. Come on. Let's ungroup it so it can grab what I want. Again, ungroup. All right. Now, preview. See, I've got this as a one scan angle. This over here is another layer with another scan angle. These down here, at first, these were going to be two different ones with different scan angles, but I think I ended up doing it different. I think we'll see in a second. But the orbit, the satellite that's in orbit, that is on a regular 0 degree scan angle, but it's done with less power than the heavy dark black engraving, but more power than the Delta. So it is very distinct, very visually distinct when you look at these in person. It's a huge variation between that globe and the satellite. The stars and the starburst, the planets, all that, those are all done on the same as the black engraving. But in order to get these different scan angles to create those lines that to me, it was supposed to simulate the stainless steel effect, the brushed stainless steel. And in order to accentuate those different pieces of that Delta or that arrowhead, I wanted to have, that's a defined raised line. So that's on a different slope. So it's a 3-dimensional piece. And I was able to make that 3-dimensional by using the LPI and having those on different layers. So let's look at, and actually they were 2 different layers. The gold and the blue is each quadrant of the Delta is a different layer. And let's look, in fact, let's turn off. No, I don't want to do that. Turn them off. So I'm going to show you just the blue part of that delta. And when we look at the settings for it, I've got the scan angle at 131 degrees. 131 degrees for the scan angle. Well, how did I get to that number? Well, I'll show you. And I've got lines per inch of 60 lines per inch, or a 0.4233 line interval, or 60 lines per inch. If you're not aware, those are not separate values. They're two ways of stating the exact same thing when you're looking at your layers. For those across the pond, they talk about the line interval, and probably the majority of folks is a line interval. It's how many lines is the laser creating in per millimeter. So that's why it's 0.4233. It's a line every 0.4233 millimeters. But if you use the lines per inch, it's giving it to you in your inches instead of metric, and it's literally just that. Here it's 60 lines per inch. And honestly, when I'm designing, and I'll work in both, but when I come to trying to set my LPI, I think just that, LPI. I don't think line interval. But if you hear another designer talk about, oh, change your line interval to this, they're talking about the LPI. Same thing. It's just two different ways of saying the same thing. And while I'm stopped here, I'm going to try and stay on top of these questions. When you make a Lightburn file to sell or share, do you always use a 10 watt? If it's engraving, almost always. If it's just cutting out boxes, no, I'll do it a lot of times with 30 watt. Because it's just a cut. It's faster with a 30 watt. But when it comes to Hobo and Hobo's brain, the one thing that's absolute, there are no absolutes. No absolutes. There's no way of knowing. But when I do engraving, if I'm doing, it's almost always the 10 watt. Cutting, you might roll the dice on it. Now I'll take that back. Not almost always. It's not a roll of dice. If I'm like with the settings we're going to see here for this piece we're talking about, I'm doing all the engraving with the 10 watt. Once I've engraved the image, I could stop, change it to the 30 watt, and then, step back down, reset it up, and send back. If I've spent the last hour doing that engraving, I ain't worried about it doing the cut in 4 passes or 8 passes. So I'll just let it go and just increase the number of passes and let the 10 watt cut it. It keeps it, because it is a smaller kerf. It's going to make it a tighter cut. Going to have to watch replay. I think I am 7 to 8 minutes behind already, which with all the buffering happening, I'll leave this running. All right. Well, thank you, Chris. If you're not engraving the center, then why does it look like it's a gold color, or is that the finish? That's just if you're talking about that and it looks like that's gold, that's just the natural Baltic birch. I've got a coat or two, maybe 3. I've got a lacquer finish on there. But that's just natural Baltic birch. There's no engraving, no finish. That's just the natural Baltic birch that I use, which is hobowithwood.com/premium Baltic birch. Did you use yes. I used the Boolean tools to create the images that I needed, but to create all of the different quadrants of the delta, there was a lot of time drawing and offsetting and to get the result that I wanted. And I'll show you a basic part of that on a basic piece, but not all of this. Just getting, if you got comments like this from Led Zeppelin, I do. I've told you before, I love your name. Put the exclamation point so that what jumps out at me. If you got questions, question marks. That is the one feature I wish the Rolly had. Forgot the autofocus and IR, just let me select the 10 watt. You know, that's not a rolly thing. If you're talking about being able to toggle between 10 watt and 30 watt without a physical toggle on the module, that's not a rolly issue. That is a light burn, and it's not an issue. It's a light burn feature that is being discussed and will probably be available in the future. But I think it might actually be a combination of things. Lightburn can't do it. And since Lightburn can't do it, I don't think the control boards are programmed or able to do it, even if Lightburn would. So I think it's kind of a, chicken and egg. Lightburn's going to have to be able to do it. And then once Lightburn can, then the manufacturers will have the module or the control boards that allow you to do it. But why bother making the control board if the software won't do it? I think that's how that worked. The one thing that I will never profess to be is a know-it-all, or that's what I seem to recall from previous conversations. And I might be wrong. But I know that Lightburn has talked about it being something that may be in the disc. Yeah, there he is. Control board will have to have the feature first. So it's who's going to do what? There's no demand for it, so Lightburn's not doing it, and so I don't know. The program can be wrote for it. Yeah, and it will be. Lightburn is developing crazy. I have yet to download the 2.0 yet. I don't want to get anything that's still being, having bugs worked out of it. I'm waiting for the public release. When everybody updates, then I'll start showing you the features of 2.0. All right. Mark that spot and let's get back over here to this design. All right, that's done. Switch back. All right. And before I do Andy's question, has anyone experimented with the great engraving at 10 watt versus 20 watt with 50% power? If you are asking about do they equate, does if your question is like, okay, well, if a 10 watt will do this at 100% power, will the 20 watt do it at 50% power? No. It doesn't, the math doesn't work like that. If that's what you're asking, I do know that it doesn't, a 10 watt or a 20 watt doesn't do it at twice the speed. A 40 watt doesn't do it at 4 times the speed, or it doesn't do it at 25% of the power of the 10 watt. It's not, and I'm not, I hated grammar. I hated English. And so my vocabulary is limited. It's not linear. There we go. I think that's the word I want to use. That transition, it's not linear with the power of the laser. I think that's the word I want to use. All right. Yes, that's what I'm asking. Will the detail be the same? No. Because you're not just changing power, you're changing the size of your pin. If you just went from using if you know what a mechanical pencil is, that's what the drafters use, and they've got that little bitty fine lead that's the mechanical pencil, right? Well, you're going from that to a Sharpie marker, and you just can't get the same detail. You just can't. All right, back to the design. All right, so as I said, I've got 60 lines per inch and a scan angle of 131 degrees. 131 degrees. And I'm going to put this temporarily here into line mode. And if I put it in line mode and say, okay, and then look at the preview. Oh, you know what? I don't need to do a preview. I just need to do Alt-Shift-W. Come on. Got to get Alt-Shift-W. And no, it won't do that. I take that back. It's got to stay in fill mode. I'm sorry. And say, okay. And now Alt-Shift, and that's that. And now do preview. Duh. And I got to select the whole thing. There we go. Now preview. Come on. There. Oh, it's even though I'm not showing it, I've got it set to output. I don't want it to output all that. I only want it to output the blue. Turn these off. I'm sorry. All right. Now, preview. If you look, those lines are parallel to the outer perimeter of that piece out here. Not down here, but it's parallel to this piece, this line out here. And that's how I determined what angle I wanted that scan angle to be. If I wanted the scan angle to come from over here and come down, then I would have used a different method. And I'm going to show you both methods because that's what I had to do. But here, I wanted to have it running lengthwise of that straight line there. I wanted it with that straight line, not on the line with the angle. So how do I know what that angle is? I felt so stupid. In my early days of using Lightburn, I actually drew and created an actual protractor in Lightburn. And I don't know if I've still got it. I've got it on my laptop, but I don't have it in here because I was like, way to go, dummy. It does what you want it to do, but you didn't need to do that because Lightburn has it built into here with the measurement tool. You have a protractor in the measurement tool. So what was it? 5th grade or 6th grade math? Do you remember your protractors? How you measure angles? Well, if I take this right here and I am going to put it, I'm going to put it in wireframe mode by using Alt-Shift-W, and that changed it from, it's still in film mode, but the visual representation, what I see is just in line mode. Now, if I come over here and grab my measurement tool, the ruler, and I bring it over here and I highlight the segment that's in question, which is right there. Once it's highlighted, as long as I don't scroll over another line, whatever's highlighted will be what's populated in this tool. And it tells me right there that angle is 131.1 degrees. I didn't have to figure anything. I didn't have to do any math. That's the angle of that line, 131.1 degrees. And yes, I got some RC, and I got to thank Dwayne and Ed, and see, I can't retain names. It's April. I'm sorry if I get the name wrong. And Dwayne, and I'm terrible with names. I shouldn't even try to recall names because I just embarrass myself. But anyway, it wasn't Dwayne. I was gifted I think about 6 2-liters with the couple from South Carolina, and that was greatly appreciated. But I try to go to Dollar Tree once a month, and I try to buy 24. I'll buy 24 at a time because they're only $1 at Dollar Tree, and that I try to make those 24 last me the entire month. You know, you're like, really? 24 in 31 days? Yep. That's why I'm as fat as I am. But I did replenish. Yay. All right. Now, so I used the measurement tool for that line, and it gave me the exact angle. Now, it was 131.1 degrees, and you can't do the 0.1s in there. At least I don't think you can. But 131 was close enough. And so I said, okay, I went back in there. And let's see if you can put a 131.1. No, you can't do the 0.1. But 131 degrees was my scan angle for that right there. And here you have a visual representation of what that scan angle is going to do. If I come over here and I change this, and pay attention, I've got a positive 131 in there right now, and it's showing you that positive, that 131 scan angle. If I come in here and I put it a negative 131, you see it is still 131 degrees, but now it's negative. It's going in the other direction. $131. All right, there we go. Now, depending on where your piece was rotated, this is how that works actually. Scan angle 0 is running directly across your x-axis. It's just left to right. That's 0 degree scan angle. 90 degree scan angle is going to run it straight up and down your y-axis. A positive number, if you want to rotate something clockwise, you're going to use a positive number. If you want to rotate it counterclockwise, you're going to use a negative number. Here, it had an opposite effect, an opposite result, but that's because of where the origin point is in this piece, that one little triangle. With where the origin point is, I think it created a different result. But when you're drawing from scratch and you were 99 times out of 100, a positive number where it's going to rotate them clockwise, and I hope that's right for you, and a negative number is going to rotate it counterclockwise. But now let's turn on the gold layer and show that. So there, these are, essentially the same pieces, with the exception of the trail of the orbit of the satellite. And if I look, there it is. It's negative 131 degrees. And it's giving me that, that other angle, the opposite angle. And it's 60 lines per inch, the same line interval. And when I look at these two in the preview, come on. There we go. Preview. Because I have them almost perfectly lined up, there's a little bit misalignment there, but not much. You got to scroll out to see that. You're not going to see that with the naked eye. And this is perfectly parallel to that side. This is perfectly parallel to that side. And it gives me, with that 60 lines per inch, it gives me that result. Now, let's look at this. I'm going to duplicate that. Say Control D, duplicate it. And I'm going to move it right over here. You know what? Let's do this. Let's get rid of this altogether here. I don't need that. And hopefully I got just that image. And this one. All right. So now when I look at these, and go to preview, preview, and then magnify. Preview. Come on. What's the deal, Pickle? There we go. Computer. There we go. Those are identical. They're both at the 60 LPI. Well, let's come over here to this one, and I'm going to put this on. That's all grouped. Just ungroup it. All right. Now I'm going to take these two blue ones, and I'm going to put them on an unused layer of 20. I'm going to put it in fill mode. I'll do it at 30 lines per inch and 131 degree scan angle. This one, let's put it on this layer. Fill mode. Nope. 60 lines per inch and negative 131 scan angle. Now, They should be the same, right? Because I've got the same. No, I take it back. I increased. I've got less lines per inch. 60 lines per inch. The other one's, did I do 30 lines per inch? I can't even remember what I just did because I wanted to show you two things in this example. In fact, let's just double check. 60 lines and 30 lines. So let's put this one at 30 so they're the same. There we go. Now, so this is 30 lines per inch. This is 60 lines per inch. Same scan angles. So now when we look at that preview, look what else is different. Here you've obviously got more lines. Then when we come over here and look at this one, you've got less lines, but in addition to having less lines, it's open. It's not that's not a closed delta anymore. You don't have the definition. And you hear me talk about wanting definition in your artwork when you're creating all the time. And the way you get definition is using the sublayer on just about anything you're engraving. Anything. I don't care if you're using a 0.08 line interval, which is your, or what's it, 200 or 500. Well, we'll look. Because let me just show you. We'll come back over here, go to that same example, and let's come down here to those two layers I just did, and we're going to increase our lines per inch. I'm actually going to change my line interval to 0.08. So it's 317.5 lines per inch, and do the same thing down here. Actually, you know what? For giggles, I'll do this one at a 0.1 or a 0.1. So I'm messing with you. I'm working in line intervals and lines per inch just so I can show that you guys I work in both. All right. So now what do you expect to see? If I come over here and we look at this, that didn't change. Now, if I come over here and look at this one, my scan angles are still the same, but my line interval is different because 0.08 versus a 0.1. But look how you've got this unevenness here. And if you look at your edge of your piece, even though you've done this, and not this one, this is a 0.1. So it's actually larger than most of your spot sizes. This is supposed to be what your spot size is if you have your laser focused correctly for optimal focal point. A 0.08 should have no lines overlapping one another. It's just going to be a perfect field all the way. But we don't get perfect. We don't get perfect focus. We got it's a dirty laser or slight irregularities in the wood. So it's never going to be perfect. But if you look at the edge, it's open. You don't have that definition there. And when you look down here, you'd have this little line of engraving and then a little dash. So the way you get your definition, the way you give that pop to your design, make it clear, is adding one sublayer to your engraving. So if I come back down here, because here all I did was just a fill, and here all I did was a fill. So let's put these on the same playing field, 0.08. And now I'm going to come up here and use my plus sign in Lightburn right here to add a new sublayer. It defaults in line mode, and that's what we want, a line. We want line after fill. And then set your speed and power for your line setting, and it's going to do an engrave. You'll see here, come down here to the same thing. I'm going to add, actually, you know what? I'll leave this one off. These are the same line intervals, 0.08 and a 0.08, but one has the line after fill and one doesn't. So if I come down here and look at that preview now, there you see you've got that nice, nothing's changed. You got good definition. It's that stainless brush looking. Over here, it's going to be a nice dark black engraving. But this, they're the same line intervals, But you see how you've got this funky thing going on up here? It's not closed. And did I not say okay? Because this one's not closed either. Let's try to go back to that. I didn't say okay. Add the sub layer and say okay. There we go. Now you preview it. There. See, down here's where that little tick was at. Well, now instead of just that little tick, it actually is the laser will come around here and encompass that piece, and then back over here to this line. So from here to here would not have been engraved if you didn't do the line after fill. So line after fill is how you get definition, how you make that piece pop. You see that right there? See how these are the same line intervals, but this one looks darker than this one. There's no difference except for that line after fill. So let's move on. Before I actually move on, let me scroll up to where I marked and look for any questions, comments. I love seeing all these numbers, people learning stuff today, wherever you're at. Okay, I got that one. Yes, we got RC. Yes, we got RC. Thank you. Bordello says our humidity has been known to get up to 20%. Are you being funny, Bordello? Our humidity here is like 70% at times. You walk outside and it's not raining, but you come in, you're soaking wet. Yeah, 20% humidity. Please give it to me, please. All right. All right, good. All right, marking, and moving on. Because I want to talk about a lot tonight. I want to give you guys a bunch of information so you know how to bring the most out of your designs. All right, so let's get back over here and let's turn this stuff back on. See what I've got. All right, hopefully that's just that one. It is. All right, delete that. All right, so now I've got the one. I can get rid of that toolpath. And now, Alt-Shift-W, put it back in fill mode. I was in wireframe mode. Alt-Shift-W toggles back and forth between wireframe and filled while staying in the filled mode over here in your layer setting. So I just showed you the blue and the gold and how I found the 131 degree line in or scan angle. Now these, the gray and the purple, they've got a different scan angle, and I approached it differently. I had it come off of here and run to the center. How did I determine what that's going to be? This one is a little bit more tricky. It involves that 4-letter word, math. But it's simple math for the simple-minded. And I think I finally figured out how I can keep it in here and not have to think about it too hard. So to determine what that scan angle is going to be, I'm going to turn these off. Turn off everything that don't show. No, let's see. There we go. That and that. Okay. So these are the pieces I'm working with. I'm going to go to a wireframe by Alt-Shift-W. I'm in wireframe mode now. And now I'm going to take and find out what angle how do I find out the angle to come from this line to this line? And I wanted that to be a straight line off of here, or I want that to be 90 degrees. 90 degrees. Carl, I pay $1. I say it's actually $1.25 $1.25 for the 2-liter RCs, getting them from the Dollar Tree. I don't know if that's going to be for you in your neighborhood, but here, and it might be, see, actually, these actually may be bottled right here in this town. We have a Sundrop bottling plant, and Sundrop bottles the RC. And Sundrop was born in Gastonia. If you know Sundrop, this is its hometown. But because I think they're bottled here, they dump a bunch of them at the Dollar Tree. 2 liters for $1.25. Squirrel. Let's get back to designing. Okay. So I want this to be 90 degrees off of this line coming to center. 90 degrees off of this line. So if I get my measurement tool and I come over here to that line right there and get that one highlighted, I can see all my information for that line. And Kent, that's probably about accurate. And I'm not worried about my likes tonight. 78, I'm happy with. If you haven't hit your like button, hit your like button. All right, because if you're still here, you must be liking what you see. All right, so here, oops, I just got off of that. Get back on that line. There we go. Here I can see all of this information, and it tells me that's a scan angle, or that line is at an angle of 108 degrees. 108 degrees. Well, what's it going to be to get here? Negative 18. That line is at 108 degrees. And I want it to be at 90 degrees off of it. Math. What's the difference? 108, 90. The difference is 18 degrees. Don't try to overthink it. Don't try. Just accept that for what it is. That's 108. You want it at 90. The difference is 18. But I've got negative 18. And if I were to change this to 18 degrees, right here, it's showing you your angle. Negative 18. 18. I'm not getting the whole image when I scan that way. There we go. And preview. I was on the wrong. Negative 18. There we go. Gray. There we go. 18 degrees is the difference. And then negative 18. If I change that and say okay, and now look at that preview. There you go. Now you see how those are now running at the same degree or same angle with each other. So to have them counter each other, one's got to be negative, one's got to be positive. $18 degrees. And you can see, all right, that looks like the right orientation. And when you look at your preview, 18 degrees coming off of there at making that a 90. Negative 18 off of this one because that's the same angle, but it would have been a positive or negative value, the opposite of the other side. So you're going to use the opposite of this one to get those to where they come in and meet each other like that. I struggled for a long time trying to figure out the maths and find the angles. And then I realized basically you need to do the math from either a 0-degree standpoint or a 90-degree standpoint. If you want to have your line, if this is 0 on an X and you want it to run straight up 45, then it's positive 45. 90 is going to bring it straight up and form a 90-degree angle. 110, 120 is going to bring it on past 90 and have a really large angle. If you started at 90 degrees and you need to add 30 degrees to it, now you're at 120. So I try to do basic math based on figures of zeros and 90s, and I usually make it work out. Don't know where you're at there, Lyle, huh? You know, if I lost you or if you're something else. Okay. All right. Marking this. Moving on. Marked. Close this. And so now Alt Shift W. Okay. Now, so I showed you how I figure the line interval. And when I was doing my testing for these pieces, that was one of the first things I was trying to figure out. What is my correct line interval? My goal was to try and achieve that brushed stainless steel look, that effect. So I've got multiple pieces like, okay, power was way off, stopped it. Don't want to do that because I had variable powers and it should have been the same. So I restarted. I'm like, okay, that's too tight. I don't have enough line, or I've got too many lines. So I changed it again and changed it again and kept changing it until I got the desired look I was after. There we go. And then once I got my LPI dialed in, I was able to then scale it up. The question was asked when I'm here, I'm working with a really, really small piece, and I set it to 60 LPI. When I blew it up, did that change the look of it? Yes, it did, but not so much that it was still the result I was looking for, just at a much grander scale. You think of it as that this tighter line interval, where I had more lines per inch, and it's out of focus there. If it was just bigger, it's still going to have the same lack of a gap between the lines. So it's really not that big of an issue. You find the look that you're after. It's kind of like a color swatch. When you go to your Home Depot and you walk into the paint department and you go and grab a color swatch, well, you are able to take that color swatch and kind of hold it up to the wall and kind of visualize what it might look like in the room. Well, doing a small piece with the LPI test like that, it's the same thing. It's a color swatch. You don't have to paint the whole room to know what it's going to look like. Does that work? Does that help? All right. So what else did I do to create the other dimensions of the other details of this piece? I've got like this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 layers counting the cut layer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. 8 layers counting the cut layer. And each of the 7 engraved layers all have a sublayer. Well, on the blue and the gold and the purple or the fuchsia or whatever that is, and the gray, those are all gone. Those were all layers using the line intervals. The line intervals were the reason I even created that. Now I just wanted engraving, but I needed the satellite the orbit trail of the satellite to stand out and be distinguishable between and the line interval helped because it's not a the trail and the comet, or the trail and satellite's one solid piece. So being that it's a full field, it's going to stand out. But then I wanted it to be slightly different than the engraving of the globe and the stars and then the rest of that. So I achieved that by just reducing the power of the laser slightly. If I look at my pink, I used 1800 millimeters a minute and 15% power. The black layer, there's my 720 and 10. So actually, I've got more power, but by going faster, going over twice as fast, it didn't get nearly as dark. So that's the other thing that you have to, if you have not just set and played with the test grids and recognized how speed affects power, affects, it all works together. That's why it's almost counterintuitive when you go low power and low speed and it's really, really dark. But if you run the same amount of power and run it twice as fast, well, obviously it's not going to get nearly as dark. And that's what I did there. I did more power, but sped it up so I could save some engraving time. And then lastly, it was just setting up the engraving. And then again, with the line after fill, because that is really where the definition pops, cleaning up the perimeter of each and every letter. And then lastly, it was my cut layers. And you see here, I've got 8 passes, 1200 millimeters a minute, and 8 passes in order to get it cut out of the 3 millimeter Baltic birch with the 10 watt diode. So, but when you get my file, if you get this file, those settings may and or may not work for you, but now you have a full understanding of what settings were used, and you can do this same thing with any file or any design that you're wanting to take and create these techniques with. And I'm not going to go into, because I want to show you how to create some really fast artwork with absolutely no talent whatsoever, and show you the optimization tool in Lightburn and how to really get the most out of this and save and send the minimum amount of information to your laser in doing so. Ed, you had talked about how did I get things done. If you're still with us, I'll do that in one of the Patreon live streams because we're at 1 hour and 20 minutes. I don't want to go over 2 hours. I appreciate everybody that's still here. I don't want to go over 2 hours, and this is going to be quick and it's going to be really cool. I did this today, and I'll show you what I did, and I'm going to show you how to do it yourself. So I needed some flames. Okay. And I didn't want to go over and get an image off of Google and bring in an image of flames or ask AI to create an SVG I didn't want to do all that because I may or may not get the result that I'm looking for. So check this out. I'm going to say new. No, discard it all. All right, that's all gone. Now, I'm going to come over here and text mode. Let's shrink that down to size. Let's get it down to 50. All right, there we go. Text. This, and actually, you know what? Just so you can see, I'm not telling you no fibs. Text. Oh, come on now. Text tool. I'm going to put my cap lock on, or you can turn cap lock off and use the uppercase option in your text tool, and that's going to be all caps. And now I'm going to type out A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And I'm not typing. Here we go. Type A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. So I have just typed out the entire alphabet, 26 letters in uppercase. I'm going to duplicate that, bring it down here, and turn off that work. Yep. So now I've got 26 letters in lowercase. And let's put all that on the black layer so it shows up a little bit better for you guys. There we go. Now, you see this? Well, Greg, you're late, but you got in time here. We're just starting this. I just typed out 26 characters uppercase, 26 characters lowercase, all letters. I ain't got to draw nothing. Come up here to my font. And I downloaded this font today. And it's called Flames, Flamez, by Mary Oz or whatever. And that came from defont.com. But those are those technically, are those wingdings? But there's a group of flames that are actually just letters of the alphabet. It's a font. And if I decided I wanted to use multiples, I can use these and the Boolean tools to create a larger piece. Say this is a B right here. So if I come down here to text and I put in the letter B for Bravo, and I'm going to take that and rotate it and then duplicate it. Bring it over here, duplicate it again, bring it there, maybe down. And we can just start welding those together, or I think you can just select them all and just weld them up and done. And now you've got, that's not even text anymore. It's a group of flames. But I went to the trouble of creating the art library, and I have over here my uppercase, and then I've got two lowercase a's for uppercase and then lowercase, uppercase and lowercase. And I've got 52 different flames in here that I can use when I need to create artwork. And this one's kind of cool. You could do like monograms or whatever with the flames on that one. And that's the lowercase z as in Z or Zelta. Z, not Delta, Z, zebra. But I want to show you something. Let me show you something. What he said? Let me show you something. What was it? Fire Marshal Bill? So this will come in huge for when you're tracing, for when you want to clean up pieces that have just got some odd corners and it's just not as aesthetically pleasing as you would like it to be. I and some of you will spend hours on some pieces in node editing, cleaning up and deleting and smoothing and changing. You can do a whole lot with node editing, and you can spend a whole lot of time doing it. This right here, there should be, for this piece of information I'm getting ready to share with you, 10 of you should give me $20, right? Because this is a huge time saver and it makes a drastic improvement on the image, be it one that you've traced or in this case, these wingdings. Check this out. So if I come down here, let's go ahead and actually, you know what? Let's look at these up here and see. Well, this is a perfect one. That's a capital A. So I'm going to get rid of all of this. Come over here and I'm in the Flames font and I'm going to type out a capital A. I'm going to go to wireframe mode by using Alt-Shift-W and rotate it by using the less than key. And now it's sticking straight up like flames. But if we zoom in nice and tight, see all these angles? Angle, 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 angle. That's not a flame. Flames do not have angles. Everywhere there's angles. Angles, 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 angles everywhere. Before, I would go into node editing, but I'm like, wait a minute. I can't go into node editing because there's no nodes. Why? Because it's a font. That's text. It's not a shape. That is a font. Even though it's not a letter, that's still a font. And to get your nodes, select it with your selector tool, right click and convert it to a path. Now that you've converted it to a path, you can go in, see your nodes, and you can come in here and say, okay, there's an angle. Hover over that node and hit the letter S. S for smooth. And every time you do that over every node, it's going to smooth that out and make that a nice curve. But do you want to sit here and go over this whole piece? No, you do not. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to start from scratch. The letter S, or the letter, capital A rather, and I'm going to rotate it using my less than. And if I go up here to the edit tool, optimize selected shapes, or Alt-Shift-W. If you click on it now, you get this right here, and you've got options here of smooth source shapes, fit shapes to lines, or fit shapes to arcs. This one is not turned on as a default. It's not an option. You can move this all you want. It doesn't do anything. I have talked to many folks who have been using the optimized shapes feature in Lightburn, and they're like, I get mixed results from it. I don't like how it comes out. I've got this, or they don't like sometimes it creates entirely too many nodes. Now I don't know this because I only know from what I've been told. For every node that you're sending to your laser, that's a piece of information or programming that you're telling that module where it needs to be. So if you had a perfect square that you could make with 4 nodes, and that's what you sent to the laser, well, then you sent 4 pieces of information to the laser. But if you've got that same perfect square and there's 120 nodes on each side, so 480 nodes to make up that same square, you're sending a ton of information to the laser. It's going to require a lot more processing information and stuff like that. I'm thinking it can slow things down. It can so the fewer the nodes, the less information you send to the laser, everything just works better. That's how I understand it in this simple, uneducated brain. Okay? Less nodes are better. Maybe I'm wrong in why I said it, but less nodes are better. So let's look at this piece. Right now, I've not done anything. It's just got all these angles all over it. And actually, before I do, I see a question from there. In fact, let's see here. I'm going to go back up my, there we go. Simple. Get the difference. Then if you turn to the left, it's minus. If you turn to the right, then it's positive. Yep. I do smaller mock-ups for designs, but honestly, it takes time. It takes me a full design or 2 to get my expected results. Tom, thank you, sir. God bless you, sir. Thank you. And yes, wingdings. Wingdings can be real, and especially with what I'm getting ready to show you here, how we're going to make this thing not good, but we're going to make it perfect and really great for engraving. I have no idea all the fonts out there. That is a nice one though. Yeah, Defont, defont.com is really cool. And you can actually search just their wingdings. I'm going to show you my flags here in a second because I'm going to use this same tool on my flags and show you how this thing really can improve your design and all of those. There's only 3 choices in that tool and how well they all work and when you need to use which one and why and all that. We're going to show you that. Can you select all the nodes with a box? Select S to smooth them all. Will that work? I don't think so, but even if it did, it wouldn't be, if it did work, it probably is not going to give you the outcome you wanted because it works kind of funky. So just to check it and answer his question, let's come over here, go to node editing. We're not in we never converted it to a path. So right click, convert to a path, show the nodes. And his question is, if I draw around here, yes, you can select them all. Now, if I hover over just this one and hit the letter S, will it make all of those smooth? No, it will not. And even if it did, if you go too much with it, see how it starts getting narrower there. It can start to have adverse effects. So you don't necessarily want to just do them all smooth. Not with, but watch what this tool does. It's a really cool tool. Switch, and I'm going to go undo, 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 undo. There we go. Now we're back to a text. Let's rotate it. Selector tool, rotate it. Now, I have not converted it to a path. That is still a font because if I go to tech or the nodes, you don't see any nodes. But if I come up here and I just go to edit, optimize selected shapes, I can see all the nodes. But this is one of the tools. This is one of the menus that this screen is not live. So you cannot zoom in or scroll. So you want to be where you want to be before you open the tool. So now I'm going to come back in here, edit, optimize, select. Now you can see those angles. You can't see your whole piece, but you can see the lion's share of it and see what's going to happen when we do what we do. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to have to use this tool twice to get the result that I want to send the minimum amount of information to the laser. First thing I'm going to do is come over here and turn on smooth source shapes. Right now, nothing's been moved, nothing's been changed, and you can see sharp corners on every one of these nodes. All of these nodes are corners. You don't see any arcs or any curves at all. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this slider, and as I start to slide it over, nothing happens. Why? Because even though I see nodes, it's not a shape. And I wanted to show you that so that when you go, it's not working, it's not working. I see nodes, but it's not working. It's showing you the nodes of that font, but it only works with a path. You have to convert it to a path. So don't let seeing nodes confuse you and make you think, well, it just don't work or it's not working for me. Make sure you're working with a path and not a font if you're working with wingdings. If this is an image that you've traced and you've got those hard angles, you ain't got to worry about that. It's already a path. But when you're working with wingdings, right click, convert to a path. Now I'll zoom in where I can see those angles, edit, optimize selected shapes, turn this on. And now when I start to slide this over, look at it. See the nodes begin to populate. And as it populates those nodes, all of those angles disappear. It becomes smooth, more flame-like, the licks of the flame. Now, if I take this all the way over, now I want you to look down here at the bottom. It's showing you right now there are 195 points or 195 nodes in this path right now. There are 180 lines and only 15 curves in this whole piece. If I max this out, I go from 195 nodes to 1,078 nodes. That's a whole lot of information, but I'm going to say okay. And now when I zoom out and look, you can see how nice and round all that is and how much better that looks. There's no angles. That's a perfect piece. But I don't want to send all those nodes to the laser to engrave that. So once you do that and you get rid of all the angles, and you may have to, you may see that going all the way might give you too much. It may change the shape too much, and you just to undo and give it less and still get some nice rounds. But now, how do I get rid of all those nodes? With it still selected, I go right back to that same tool, edit, optimize selected shapes. And you see all those nodes? I don't need to be zoomed in for this part of it. I'm leaving that off. And now I'm going to come down here to fit shapes to arcs, because I want to keep curves. I don't want to work with lines. Here I'm working with flames, so it's all curves. So if I come in here, I'm starting out with 1,078 points or 1,078 nodes. If I start to increase this, see all those nodes drop away? I went from 1,000 nodes to 200 nodes, and I've still got curves. Now, if you go too far with it, it distorts it, and you start getting some angles and stuff again. So you're not going to max that one out. You're going to give it where you like the look of it. Because if we go from 1,000 nodes right there to 100 nodes, that's really good. That's really good. It's a whole lot, because there 154 nodes. See my node points, my count there doesn't change drastically. If I get down to, right in there, 170, 160, you don't drop a whole lot of nodes, but you change the look of it immensely. So right about there, around 180 nodes, that looks good, and say okay. And now I've got very few nodes, nice crisp arcs, good curves, and it's sending a whole lot less information to the laser, utilizing less of your processing power and putting less demands on your PC and the laser board. Let's see. Go back up here to where I marked. All right. Done. Well, I answered that one. Dirt. Lyle says, but that adds nodes if you want less. You asked it before I got there. I think, do you see now, Lyle? Did I answer that question with the demonstration there? Greg says, I don't think I have enough brain power to remember all this. That's the beauty of being able to rewatch this. And I'm not going over designs and how to design. I'm trying to give, and I'm going to show you there. I just showed you how you're going to maximize that tool for arcs. Now I'm going to show you how to use this with another wingding and using it for lines and arcs, and how you manipulate this tool and get the most out of all this. Can you change them both before you say okay? I don't think you can, but let me go look. Gosh, I think I had to do it twice, but let's look. It may be because my brain only processed one process at a time, but let's go try it. So yeah, I got no more questions there. So maybe mark the spot, mark, done. And that was James that asked that. So let me turn James off and go back over here. And let's just undo, and go back. There we go. And now right click, convert to a path, go to tools, optimize selected shapes. I'm going to feel a little bit silly if you can do it both at one time, but let's see. I'm going to max that out. Turn that on and max it out. So I've got all those. Now let's fit shapes to arcs. Look at that. Hey, James, would you like a Hobo Nation laserologist hat? If you would like a hat, because you just taught me something, and it's my brain process one step at a time. Yes, you can do it all in one step. Send me an email at hobowithwood@gmail.com, hobowithwood@gmail.com, and say, I want a hat, or you just taught me something, I'll send you a hat. That's cool. So yes, you max that out. That's awesome. Awesome sauce. Awesome. So that's maxed out. And then you can start reducing those and say, okay, all in one step. And I love shortcuts and being, that's awesome. Yay. I love it when I learn something interacting with you guys. And make no mistake, I learn something from y'all all the time. All right. So now that was working with arcs. And now let's work with lines and arcs. Says you might want to look close at the results to make sure they are the same. No, they look very, 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 very similar. I did not bother looking at the actual node count and all, but I was looking at the result, the curves and the arcs, and yeah, I'm happy with that. That worked out really good. All right, so now another wingding. Delete. Everything gone? Yes, it is. All right. Now, in fact, just for giggles, let's see here. Inbox, go away. Defont.com. Defont.com is where I will go and find a whole bunch of fun stuff. And here, they don't call them wingdings. I think they call them the dingbats. I don't know the difference between a wingding and a dingbat, but I've dated a lot of them. Married one of them. So here you tell I want to do the dingbats for animals. And it's going to come up and give you all these fonts that are animal shapes. That one right there would be great for Halloween. That's a bat's font. But if you want something very, very specific, I'm going to go back to the home page, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to tell it flags. And here is a bunch of or some of them are actually fonts, where you've got fonts with stars and all that. But up here was one that just had some, and that's it. That's all there is in this whole font. You've got a regulation flag, you've got a waving flag, and a different waving flag, and then you got two different silhouettes of the continental U.S. So this is the U.S. flag by the font site. Now, this is the one that I have, but there are a ton of fun fonts on defont.com that you can do this stuff with. So if I come over here to fonts, I want US flags, and it's the letter C that I want. And if you look at this, now this is a wavy flag. So since it is a wavy flag, I'm not upset that the stars are not crisp, straight lines because it's a wavy flag. But some of them are just too distorted for me. And so I'm like, okay, I don't want that. I want to clean it up a little bit. But because it is a wavy flag, the array of stars they're not perfectly spaced because of the wave and the curves of it. So if I was to try to recreate the array with perfect stars, Then I've got to warp it or transform it. And I was like, no. Used to, I would have done that. Not anymore. Check this out. All right. Remember, this is a font. Right click, convert to a path. Go up here to your edit tool. Go to optimize selected shapes. But before I do, I want to zoom in here so I can see these stars, because you won't be able to zoom in after you open it. Edit. Oh, I didn't have it selected. Select it. Oh, don't have the whole thing selected. Dadgummit. Select it all. Zoom into my stars. Tool, edit rather. Optimize selected shapes, or Alt-Shift-O. I'm going to be using this enough that I might have to memorize that one, but I can't do Alt-Shift-O with one hand, with my left hand, so I may or may not do it. There we go. Now I can see, those deformed stars and all of those nodes. Well, instead of messing with smooth source shapes or the arcs, I'm doing fit shapes to lines. And right now it's telling me I've got 1,090 points. And if I come over here to this lines and start increasing that, look at all the nodes beginning to disappear off the stars. And if I take that and just keep sliding, now if I max this out, you don't want that. That's no longer a star. So you don't just max it out. You're going to look though and watch for, optimally you want to have 5 nodes on a star. But if you're just watching those nodes and watching where those lines and looking for your optimal output, and now here is why I did it in 2 steps. Because I'm zoomed in and I can only see the stars, I don't know what the arcs are going to do. If this was a live menu, like some of the tools are, and I wish this one was, then I could do this in 1 step. But when you zoom in to see a specific area in the design, you may not be able to do it in 1 step, as I can't do it here. So now I'm just going to tell it okay and zoom out. And now I'm going to look at my curves and the arcs. So I can go edit, optimize selected shapes, and just take a gander and look at my arcs here. See, if you go out there, you start messing your stars up because there are some arcs in there. But I'm just going to look and see if there was a radically number of nodes on there. Then, and in fact, and here's another thing: if you got, and I can't zoom in to show you, but you can see it. Those nice crisp corners. If you use this one, you turn them into radius, right? So you wouldn't want to do that. So here, you're not going to mess with that one. I'm going to leave that one alone and just say okay. So now that dingbat that dingbat is a lot more crisp, and I would use that in a piece of artwork for a waving flag, and I didn't have to go trace anything. I saved that in my art library. I already have, and that's what's really cool with your art libraries. Go and find you some really fun fonts, and if you do a lot of kids thing, check this one out. This one's fun. Delete text. I'm on. You can highlight. There we go. And just type out the name if you know what name you're looking for. Dinos. Font. A. B. C. You can get all kind of little dinosaurs in that one. Dinos. D-I-N-O-Z. I got that one from DeFont as well. So you don't have to be an artist. You just got to know where to look for the art and then how to maximize and get the most out of it within Lightburn. So that optimization tool, if you could zoom, if it was a live menu, then I could say almost always you could do everything in one process. but because you might zoom in good and tight to be able to see the definition of those angles dropping away and getting you what you want, then say, okay, zoom out, and then have to, you may have to do it in 2 steps, whereas you definitely would not have to do it in 2 steps if it was a live menu. So, all right. Go back up to my last spot. There it is. Seen that. I dated a wingding that was a dingbat. They're called dingbats in Microsoft. Thought they were special, so they are called dingbats, but Microsoft thought they were special and called their versions wingdings. Okay. There's Miss Stacy. Hey everyone, sorry I've been away for a bit. Mom had a medical emergency with her heart and was in the hospital, and I was with her for over a week. Well, I hope everything's okay, Stacy. Stacy, I was just bragging about how I learn from you guys every time I do this. And tonight I've learned some things, and yours was one of my favorites, with being able to just simply, if you're using the Boolean subtract tool and it generates the opposite result you want, undo and hit it again. It's so slick. So slick. And I'm grateful for that. Jim, thank you, sir. Thank you. God bless you, and thank you. Greatly appreciated. Okay. Dingbat used to be Edith. You're dating yourself, Lyle. You're dating yourself, and I don't mean taking yourself out to dinner. Okay. And Robert says, I have been listening. I just got home with Wilson. Yay! Robert just got home with Wilson. Wilson's his new rescue dog. That's awesome. I'm tickled to death. I hope that you and Wilson become the greatest of pals. I love that you love that trick. Such a time saver. It's awesome. Yeah. All right. So we're at 157. I think I got everything I wanted to show you. Oh, no, I don't. I know I don't. There was one more thing. And I have processed, whenever we went up to West Penn Hardwoods the other day, I picked up another huge piece of Argentine Osage orange. And that's what this is. This is the Argentine Osage orange. That is the natural color of the wood. And I did the painting on the green for the Gadsden flag and see if I liked it or not. The majority of people came back and said, no, leave the green out of it. The actual flag has the green grass in there, but from the engraving, everybody said leave it off. But anyway, I digress. This is Argentine orange. Argentine Osage orange. And this is some extremely dense, beautiful wood. And I bought a huge piece of lumber, and I've processed it, got it down to the 5x7 plank size. I haven't completely finished them yet because this wood is dense. Look at how dark the engraving is, though. That is black, 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 black. Beautiful, beautiful engraving. No filler. No, that's just straight off the laser and put the lacquer on it. And it's beautiful. And this one, I milled it down to about 12 mil. But this is such a beautiful piece of wood. On the new piece I got, they're almost an inch thick. They're about 3/4 of an inch thick. Now, this one I've milled down to the right size, but I haven't done the OG routed edge yet. Routed edge. This is the OG routed edge. I haven't cleaned it up yet. Still got a lot of work to do to it. I got to sand it, clean it up, work on any blowouts that are on there and get it cleaned up. But look at the difference in thickness between the two. Now, these are the same material, This one just doesn't have anything on it yet. This one's got the lacquer on it. I'll be having these on hobowithwood.com in the lasering blanks very, very soon. I just got to get the routed edges on them and get them finished. But Argentine Osage Orange. Get on Google, get on Etsy, get on wherever you buy your laser engraving blanks and try and find a piece of Argentine Osage Orange in a 5x7 blank with a nice, look at that OG, that looks good. The Roman OG routed edge. You won't find them. These are one of a kind. And I'm also, I'm still expecting the new Cubico, the little desktop CNC. It should be here next month. I was hoping it was going to be here this weekend because this is actually my 3rd anniversary. This weekend marks 3 years of the birth of Hobo with Wood. So a huge thank you to everybody who's made 3 years possible. And my plan was to give away the Cubico in this weekend's stream, but it didn't get here. They haven't shipped it yet. It's supposed to be shipping next month. So we'll be doing a late giveaway. Somebody's going to get a brand new Cubico, but it's not just the CNC engraver. I've got the Cubico. I've got the larger, more powerful spindle. They had 2 spindle options. I got the bigger one, the heavier duty, faster one. And it has a laser module that goes on it. And I've got the dust shoe for dust collection, because after watching Stephen Tari and him demoing his and showing, it's, man, do those things. They're tiny, but the mess is huge. So I went ahead and ordered the dust shoes. I've got those here already before the Cubico guy here. So they'll get the dust collection shoe, the laser module, the more powerful spindle, and the Cubico. Somebody's going to get all that for free. I'm going to do a random drawing for, you got to be in the stream to win it. You'll have to be here to win. You do not have to be a patron. I cannot increase the patron's chances of winning over anybody else's, because somebody will ask me. It's going to be whoever's in the stream, and it'll be a complete random drawing, and someone will get a brand new unit. And what I'm going to be doing for those is the work area of those Cubicos is not, it's about the size of a postcard, give or take. I'm oversimplifying, but it's around the size of a postcard. And I think it's about is it 50 or 60 mil thick, around 2 inches or a little bit over 2 inches thick. Well, I'm going to be processing blanks for those, and I'm going to be doing it. A lot of it, I'm going to be doing it in basswood for a lot of reasons. One, it's cheap. It's really cheap. And 2, it's really, really soft. So for us beginners trying to figure out the CNC, and we don't want to be, because I didn't show you this. This is the Osage Orange. Listen to this. It's almost like metal. That is some dense, heavy duty wood. And that is the reason I don't have them finished yet, is I've got to get a new Roman OG router bit, because the one I've got is dull and it can't do these because it's hard. So I'm going to be processing a whole bunch of basswood, perfect blanks for the Cubicos. So all the Cubico owners out there in the U.S. that need to buy, ready-made blanks, I'll have them. So I'm trying to figure out all the ways I can possibly get some revenue coming in. With that said, thank you to everyone who's already a patron, all of the gold, silver, and bronze. If you like what you see here, consider going over to patreon.com/hobowithwood and becoming a patron. My cheerleader, one of my biggest cheerleaders, and I'm not going to say he's number one cheerleader. He is one of the most vocal cheerleaders. Uh, we'll pretend it came on time, and also that you gave it away, and that you won it. That Bob won it. Lost train of thought there. One of my biggest cheerleaders is Bob. Don't know where I was going with that, Bob. When I seen that, I got tickled and forgot what I was saying. Anyway, Bob also mentioned a minute ago about going gold. Going gold. Bob has already told you, go gold. Go gold. Patreon.com/Hobo with Wood, right there. Consider going over to patreon.com, becoming a sponsor for this channel. The patrons on Patreon are the ones that make this happen. Without my patrons, I could not be here, because the other things I'm trying to get going, they're slow, and it costs. It costs. The folks that went with Ed can tell you, if he's still here, that my lumber bill, I had Osage orange, piece of maple, piece of walnut, and 1 or 2 pieces of basswood. I walked out of there with 5 pieces of lumber. It's $400. 5 pieces of lumber, $400. But with that said, actually I got it was 7 pieces. I had 2 pieces of red oak. I've got to make some thresholds. I just put down a new floor in part of the house, and I've got to have some thresholds, and they're going to need to be custom thresholds, not something I could probably find something and make it work. I ain't going to do that. So I went to Lowe's or Home Depot. I don't go to Lowe's. I went to Home Depot and was going to buy some red oak there to machine and make my own custom thresholds. And they want $16 to $20 a board foot. No, not a board foot, a linear foot. And since I was looking at 1 inch thick pieces, a linear foot, 1 inch thick, is a board foot. So it's $16 to $20 a foot. I got everything I needed up there for like 10 or 12 bucks. I mean, it's cheap. The red oak was really, really cheap, dirt cheap compared to the Home Depot. This is what broke the bank. This was ridiculous. That's why you won't find a 5x7, 3/4 inch thick with an OG routed edge engraving blank, because they're ridiculously expensive, but good Lord, are they pretty. And this one I did with just a 1/4 round, or, and that looked okay, but I just upped the game on that, boys and girls. These are beautiful, beautiful pieces of wood. All right, now I've shown you everything. So thank you to everybody with the anniversary wishes. Yeah, and we will have a big party. And this is Ed. Ed's still here. Yep. When you route that end grain, put a sacrificial piece behind it to help prevent that blowout. Yep. And route the end grain first. Yep. And I do the end grain first, but the problem, and that one I had a blowout, and that's why I stopped, because my bit. The bit I've got, I don't have a quality Roman OG bit. And I've got quality bits on some of the other stuff. So I've got to get a new router bit, and that should stop what happened there. But I can fix that up. I can fix it up real easy. Where there it is. So this one, and you may have seen it, Ed. You may have been eagle eye. So this one is, I've got routed out, but then right there, I got a little bit of blowout, a little bit. I can take that, and because as thick as I've got all this, I can take that, run it on the joiner, smooth that out, sand it up, and it'll be perfect. No loss. No loss. Yep. Tear out, blow out. Yep. Yep. Looking for last minute questions and comments. Okay. Actually, no, I'm not getting the Diablo. I'm getting the what is it? It's even more expensive than the Diablo. I've got a few of them. Foyd. It's like that the psychologist. For I don't even know how you say that. Freud. There we go. Switch. Freud. Those are the. I've got a friend who does really high end stuff, and he absolutely swears by them. I've got several and have had excellent results with them. Extremely high quality, very very sharp, and that's what I've got coming. Freud. Okay. Are you doing the split? Oh, okay. So Isaiah downloaded this file, and he was looking and made me start looking to see if I had an assembly video on this box. I thought it did. He thought I did, but I think both of us thought wrong. I don't think I actually had an assembly video for it. It's extremely simple, Isaiah. The split lid, double hinged. It's like a sewing box. I think what they refer to this, or most commonly known as a sewing box. But the little dots, they're just glued onto the top and covering up the two pieces that interlock each other and form like an axle. And you can see inside here, there you go. You can see how the little T's, that little axle, if you will, they fit into there. And then it's on this side, it's a T shape, but where it pivots is a circle. So it's locked in place on the inside, but on where it needs to pivot, it's just a circle. So it just rotates in on itself, and the little buttons cover it all up. It's not hard. It really isn't. But are you Isaiah? Are you a patron? Isaiah, the only reason I ask is it might be something that I can do with the patrons during one of the patron design videos. All right, that's my question to you. Are you a patron? Dale says I have to watch this one on reruns. My meds put me to sleep by halfway. Sure, blame it on the meds. Blame it on the meds. I've got that golfer's tone. It just puts you right to sleep. And Isaiah, you do not have to be a patron. It's not relevant to whether or not I'm going to show you. It was just relevant on how easy it is for me to get that information to you. So are you a patron? If not, I've just got to do something different to get you into the group so you can see and we can discuss it. I am not. I'm trying to, but where I live. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. It's again, it's totally irrelevant. And this brings up a good point. I don't care if you're a patron or not. I'm going to do my best to try and help you understand what's going on and how to figure out designs, be it my design or something you're wanting to put together. You don't have to be a patron for me to help you. I am a member of the Lightburn Facebook group, and I've even tried to help a few people there. And people, unfortunately, I don't have the recognition in the laser diode community yet that people just know that I'm just a genuine dude. I'm saying, you got a problem? Let me help you. I don't charge folks when I help them. I don't ask them for money. People do ask about, well, how can I send you this? So I make them aware of the Adopt a Hobo page so that if they want to send a gift, they can. Tips are gladly appreciated and taken, gladly accepted. But I never ask for any monetary compensation for doing what I do. But people hit me all the time with, oh, well, you're doing it because you get paid for your views, or you get. I don't do those. In fact, these patron videos I'm talking about getting you to join in, Isaiah, they're private. No one sees it. They don't go out on the internet. They're not broadcast for people to see. They're not monetized. I don't get any money for even doing the videos, and it's just a video conference. In fact, I don't even record them. There's nothing for me to share. If they are automatically recorded, I delete them. I don't even pay them no attention. I like to help people, and I like people to understand how to create their own pieces, not having to go in and buy from me or from anybody, giving them the knowledge to do it themselves. That makes me feel good. And when people share, hey, look what I did, and it's thanks to Hobo, I put another feather, put another feather, put another feather. I love to see that and love to hear that feedback. There are some creators out there who have got the entirely different attitude. They're going to help you for $50 an hour, and some are even trying to absolutely dominate that and, make folks like myself irrelevant. And it's bad for them because I do it for free. They can't have that. It goes against their what's the, I'm thinking of the banks, their process of again, my vocabulary eludes me. Their business plan, their business model. So, I'm not in it. I don't do this for the recognition. I don't do this to get rich, because money don't make you happy. Money pays your bills, and I'm grateful for what I get coming in, but it's not my end goal. My end goal is not to be Laser Man. Look at me, check me out, and I know better than you do. That's not my goal. My goal is to make you a better laserologist. I want to share what I learned, and I love it when I learn from you. And like I said, I've learned tonight. So, and so I don't think I'm probably atypical, and that's why most people are hesitant to believe it when I'm willing to just, hey, let's do this. What can I help you with? So anyway, all right, we're over to 2 hours. So we're getting out of here. Let me make sure I've got, all right, they got Dale. Thanks for all you do, Steve, and give Gigi a yes. Yep, me and her going to snuggle up here. You should have a full body length headdress by now. All my feathers. Yeah, and actually this is I have Mill Mage, but I haven't got to use it yet. Hope this week. I've had Mill Mage for a year. But I haven't downloaded the public beta version yet. I will. I've been waiting for the Cubico to get here before I even mess with it. Money don't make you happy, but it'll buy you a boat. Well, Dale. I have worn many hats in my time on this marble. I lived on a boat for 10 years. I lived on a cruiser yacht for 10 years, and it was pretty fun. But people always say the two happiest days of a boat ownership is the day you buy it and the day you sell it. Well, not necessarily true. I loved it. I loved living on a boat, but I would have loved it more if I hadn't been landlocked. I was locked between two dams, and I could only go so far. And after 7 years or 10 years of living on a boat and not being able to go anywhere else, I got bored. But yeah, I loved my boat. Mill Mage is out in a pre-release. you can go over to Lightburn forum, I think it is, and get their there is a version that you can download. Yes. But it's not it's kind of like 2.0. Lightburn 2.0 is not out yet, but there's a version you can download. Millmage does have a downloadable, or they did, unless they changed it. They did have a version you could download. And that's great. That's great. Well, hopefully it's not so much of an asset that it affects your taxes. Seeing it put together helped. I'll try it and let you know. Yeah, this it's really not that hard. Like I said, the key things, that's where they lock in place. And then down here it's hidden because these I'll hide it just to dress it up. But you've got the same thing going on inside there. You see those X's, and I just did that just to dress it up. And also because I did the pattern, those pieces are what I painted red, and to give you the color, and to keep what's in the box and not falling out through the array. All right. Chris is back. There is a public release candidate of Millmage now available. Yeah. I knew that there was. I didn't know if they had taken it down, but yeah, I thought it was still out there. All right, guys. Thank you for hanging out with me tonight. Thank you for showing up. Where are we at with the likes? Where did we end up for tonight? So I see, I can't see. So 90, I wasn't. Oh, Beauty says she was 98 likes. Well, that's awesome. That's really, really good. All right. I'll leave you with this, guys. We are living in a crazy, crazy time right now. World is on fire. If you are a praying person, when you pray, you should be specific about what you pray for. Don't just give it a general, boy, I wish this, or I prayed this, I want this. Lately, and the most successful prayer that I've had, very simple. Just pray for peace, and not world peace. Don't pray for peace in your neighborhood. Pray for inner peace. Pray for inner peace. And if you're at peace and you don't have a whole lot of struggling and battling going on, and getting all tied up in all the drama that's trying to drag you down, if you're at peace, then it's a whole lot easier for your peace to spread. All right. And once you've got peace, it's easier for everyone to start, just pray for peace. Pray for your own inner peace, and not be caught up in this mess. There's too many people are being used. People are being used. And don't fall into that. They've been trying to suck me in, I ain't going to let them. So thank you again for everything, guys. Appreciate you. Thank you, Robert. It is on Lightburn's webpage under the development tab. That's where you'll find Millmage. If the world wants to know how to create peace, they should ask a laserologist. It's really just kind of simple. Start here first. I can't bring peace to your house if I don't have peace in my house. Right? All right, guys. Thank you for everything. And I will see you guys next weekend for the patrons and the regular views on youtube.com. Next week's real quick. I'm trying to do those short videos. I did one this week on creating the shadows with any font. This week, I'm going to do one where I create height, or I'm going to elevate the font off of the surface, creating a distance between. When we did it in last week's video, or this past week's video, you had the font with the immediate shadow right behind it. Now, in this next demonstration, I'm going to do that same thing where you've got the font and a shadow, but there'll be a separation. The font will be elevated above its shadow. And that'll be a real quick demonstration. And that's what I'm going to do for upcoming. And we're going to be doing more of those. I'm going to try to do 2 a week as long as peace fills the house. All right, guys. Thank you all. Have a good night. Have a great week. Happy Father's Day to everybody out there. And we'll see you in the next one. I'm Steve, Hobo with Wood, and I'm out.